But this is not the biggest story coming around the state of Michigan that involves something that, I would be interested in because, well, as we were wanting to see around these parts between either myself or Weatherman or Mark Daly, that Coach Sherrone Moore of Michigan football was fired, as we were expecting, as Weatherman was talking about with how there is a clause right there in the contract Sherrone Moore had where he would, there would be a right for him to get kicked to the curb should he lose to Ohio State. And well, it turns out it's a lot deeper than just him losing to Ohio State. That's why he's been fired. But it also turns out that he was having an affair with somebody that was part of the campus. He was having an affair with somebody there on the Michigan staff, which is against the rules. So this is the type of act where not only are they able to fire him, but also that makes them it's not their problem to have to go and pay out what's left of his contract, which is in the millions and millions. But on top of this, it doesn't just turn out that he was having an affair. Yes, this married man was having an affair with somebody on the staff, but it also turns out that he wound up getting arrested last night, as the headline I saw when I was scrolling through something on my phone and saw Coach Sherrone Moore fired. I'm like, what? Oh, okay. I had heard before earlier in the day that, he had been fired. Like, oh, yes, at last. And then I saw the details as to why and thinking, okay, well, he's got, what is this? What is this? You're telling me that he is now also getting arrested on account of him cheating on his wife, and also he's not just cheating on his wife, but having some mental problems where he is not only is it he cheating on his wife, but also turns out that there was an OnlyFans model that had Sherrone Moore sliding into her DMs, and he was violently making death threats involving this woman he was cheating on his wife with, which was on the U of M staff. So, we have definitely got an awful lot of, what the fuck's going on here? And well, let's start with USA Today. What does USA Today have? If we can go and get around all their annoying pop-ups. Seriously, you go on a USA Today article and the pop-ups are almost as bad as that debt consolidation gambling bit from the Chappelle show where he goes onto the internet, and the internet, like if it's an actual mall, like a place you could go to. Sherrone Moore News. Latest updates as fired Michigan coach arrested. All right, now this one's today, 8:54 p.m. This is Eastern time. And well, because Michigan is on the Eastern time zone as well. Can I get that AI crap out of the way? Come on. All right, there we go. Former Michigan football coach Sherrone Moore remains in custody in the Washtenaw County Jail in Michigan. Well, okay. With the reported help of the saline, well, this is making it even more confusing. Here he is doing what he was doing, but, well, apparently he was off campus, although he got fired because it turns out there was all this going on with this staff member he was having an affair with, and also now we got this other thing of this OnlyFans thought of accusing him of sliding into her DMs. All right, so let's see. Washtenaw County Jail is where he's in custody. And he was detained by the police after the Pittsfield Township Police Department, with the reported help of the Saline Police Department, responded to a 4:10 p.m. Eastern, responded at 4:10 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, December 10th, quote, for the purposes of investigating an alleged assault, unquote. He was then arrested and booked into the Washtenaw County Jail on Wednesday evening. So yeah, this was last night was when I heard about him getting fired, and it was just straight up, oh yeah, just saying he got fired, no context as to why. Other than when you just say he's fired, well, the automatic your reflex is going to be because of what we were talking about, and what honestly I was hoping for with Michigan losing to Ohio State, because as incompetent and sloppy a coach as he was. Yeah, he was not the right guy to be able to go and utilize what it was that was the right type of firepower he was given by the recruits he had and things like that under with Jim Harbaugh being the coach before him. But now, okay, I was hoping to see him fired, but this is a context that is most definitely not what I was thinking of, or not what I was expecting. I thought it was just going to be a plain good old, well, it doesn't matter. We'll get Dave Portnoy to drop another check to, help us justify eating the loss on having to fire this coach, even if we have to go and buy out his contract or whatever. But, well, with this scandal, Michigan and their athletic department can look on the bright side. Now, with all this that happened, this means they can go and fire him on account of violating their ethics, as well as that means because of this, they don't have to pay out. So, yeah, sorry, whatever. We hope you had some savings, biatch. And he was fired. Let's see, the Wolverines issued a statement at 6:43 p.m. Eastern, so only 30 minutes plus after the police department went and responded to this, that it had fired Moore from his position with cause after the university found credible evidence that he, quote, engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. He's expected to be in court for arraignment on Friday, so okay. Quote, head football coach Sherrone Moore has been terminated with cause, effective immediately. Yes, with cause, and not just the cause of losing to Ohio State. Following a university investigation, credible evidence has found that Coach Moore engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member, unquote, Michigan Athletic Director Ward Manuel said on a December 10th statement. Quote, this conduct constitutes a clear violation of university policy, and maintains zero tolerance for such behavior. Well, okay. I hope it also has zero tolerance for that one Michigan player who was headbutting the referee like that during the Ohio game because of the lofty moral and ethical standards of Michigan and their ethics, for academic standards and things like that. Despite the scandal with everything that was going on, although Michigan didn't go and void any of their victories. Ward Manuel remains as Michigan AD, okay. Yahoo Sports reported Michigan board members and university officials held a call on Thursday, December 11th, related to the Moore investigation. It was also reported Ward Manuel will remain the school's athletic director for now. Okay, unless it turns out he was complicit in this, or, him and Moore were taking turns with whoever it was that he was having an affair with. There has been public scrutiny of Manuel, okay, as Moore's firing was the latest scandal across multiple programs. The latest scandal across multiple programs under his tenure. Despite belief, Manuel could be out as a result of Moore's firing. He may remain with the Wolverines long-term and lead the search for the next football coach, okay. Michigan interim president Domenico Grasso sent a letter on Thursday, December 11th, to the school students and faculty regarding the university investigation of the incident related to former football coach Sherrone Moore. Grasso said Moore was immediately terminated when the findings of the university investigation were presented. Okay, so this was presented, and then this 4:10 is when the police are responding, and then come 4:43 is when all this is happening, when this gets announced. So, publicly announced then. It could have been something that internally they were saying do more earlier, and then he went fucking nuts and started going like this, which honestly, I am not really that surprised about him having this sort of, insanity and this deranged reaction on account of, the man, remember when Jim Harbaugh was still head coach, and yet he was suspended for some games on account of that whole scandal involving the whole thing with the stolen plays and all that. And yeah, you had Moore as the acting coach during one of those games of their national title season. And remember his big post-victory interview, he's crying and yelling and all that. A guy who has a reaction like that to a victory, yeah, maybe it turns out he's not too out of place going nuts and doing things that require calling the police after it turns out he was having an affair. And apparently also sledding into an OnlyFans DM. There is absolutely no tolerance for this conduct at the University of Michigan, none, Grasso said. I have been in close communication with the Board of Regents, and we are united in committing to doing what is right. The breach of trust by Coach Moore is painful for many in our community. First and foremost, the individuals directly involved in this situation, he added. The letter comes one day after the school announced the termination of Moore's employment. Grasso also encouraged anyone with information regarding the investigation to report it to university officials. And now we've got Rich Eisen saying he was gutted on the Sherrone Moore firing. Because yes, Rich Eisen's also he was a Michigan graduate, one of the prominent. He was one of those long-running Sports Center figures that now has moved into his own thing. I think away from ESPN, he's been doing his own show. And of course, there's the famous thing where for charity he goes and does the 40-yard dash that they do when you're December. During today's episode of the Rich Eisen Show, Rich Eisen reacted to the news of Moore's firing at Michigan, which is his alma mater. Now the quote here, since I haven't seen this clip or anything, I'm just quoting. Obviously, this is a serious situation, and I've got a couple of thoughts on it since it involves my alma mater, an institution of higher learning, and a place that I hold so near and dear to my heart, the University of Michigan. And I'm just going to come out and always do what I do here on this program, which is shoot you straight and lead with my heart. And I am gutted. I'm shocked. I'm dismayed. I'm depressed. I'm disgusted. Adam Schefter on Sherrone Moore firing on First Take, which was ESPN's big morning sports show away from Sports Center, said he knows Moore felt people had it in him for an awful long time in Ann Arbor. Well, if that's the case, then I'll just say if you think people have it in for you, well then maybe it's a matter of word spreading behind the scenes about you having this affair and you not living up to the Jim Harbaugh coaching standard, and also just your standards, the standards of as a man, as a married man, you're cheating like this. It wouldn't matter if you were a Michigan coach or if you're an Ohio State coach. The scandal happens, fuck you. And it's unforgivable. It's unforgivable and fucked up as, the Michigan State coach who got caught doing a Jeffrey Toobin impression during a Skype call with a human resources sexual harassment department figure. It was like a HR woman who was all about like investigating sexual harassment conduct and things like that, and sexual misconduct like that, to whom he, was caught with his Dark Side Phil impression on webcam like that. Man, the camera's on the whole time, huh? Everyone out there in the Spartan Nation could have seen you, huh? Well, then, 15 years later, Asmongold will make fun of me, and then that means I'll get a whole bunch of new fans. In Ann Arbor, Schefter, a Michigan graduate, was one of the first to report on Moore's firing December 10th. Oh, so what we haven't heard yet is Sherrone Moore's side of the story, and he gets his say in this particular situation as well. I do know he felt like people had it in for him for an awful long time, but then again, it's going to take an awful lot of hard evidence to go, and for your side of the story to go and exonerate you. And yes, I know out there, especially with a lot of the women in my audience that come into streams, is they came from the whole Johnny Depp trial situation that, yeah, men can be lied about by women. But also at the same time, Johnny Depp never had a situation, even with the planted, doctored footage that TMZ promulgated, where it was like the 6 seconds of zoomed in out of context footage and made it look like he was hitting Amber Heard, but it wasn't. And then it turns out the whole unedited footage in its context showed you, oh no, why he was really angry for, and that he wasn't hitting Amber. Yeah, that sort of situation. If that happens with Sherrone Moore and he proves it, okay. But remember, at the same time, the police never came, and multiple police departments having to come in and detain Johnny Depp with him talking about he was going to go and do bodily harm to somebody. No, Johnny never dealt that. He never did anything like that. Sherrone Moore here, on the other hand, unless he's got some credible evidence to disprove this and show, oh no, wait, it was this, and this, with all the shit that your Smash JTs and your Keno Casinos were saying about Razor Fist, and then he brought in the receipts to show that no, all this is complete bullshit, and that no, that nothing of what he was accused of, either with that ex of his being underage or anything like that, was all dead wrong, patently false. But in this case, it's going to take something on the level of that, or with Johnny Depp with that lawsuit that then brought everything into court and showed, oh no, wait, here is what was the real truth. If that can happen, and hey, I would be more than happy for it to happen. But yes, innocent until proven guilty under a bar of law. But at this moment, it's one of those situations where you gotta go and we'll see, if it walks like a duck and it's quacking like a duck. But if it turns out to be a mongoose and not a duck, you're gonna have to really prove that it's a mongoose, not a duck. When pressed by Paul Feinbaum, oh no, and how much he fucking hates Michigan football and all that, this dipshit Paul Feinbaum, who looks like a penis in a suit with glasses, because the only other thing he looks like is Peter Sellers as the president in Dr. Strangelove. Well, Feinbaum, who expressed confusion at how all these things can be true, that Moore may have been right that people had it in for him, and that Michigan had evidence he had an inappropriate relationship with a staffer. Schefter had this to say. No, Paul, let me be very clear. I'm saying the school fired him for a cause because it felt that reason. I'm saying that we haven't heard Sherrone Moore's version of events. All I'm saying is he's got a side that we haven't heard. That's all. Yes, I mean, remember, there's two sides to every story. There is how the accused will plead. There is, well, okay, we're going to take you in for questioning, and what are your answers going to be for the questioning that we now have about you and for you and what it is you are doing? Do you have that ability to go and show otherwise? Do you have what kind of just cause for whatever it was you're doing or saying? Or if it turns out, this person was a fucking liar and here's why, or here's, this that I have to show you that, no, I'm an innocent man in all this. This is only just beginning. This is a developing story. So we have to go and really find out where we can, what we can about how this story is true or not true. Dealing with mental health issues prior to firing, per report. According to a report from Nicole Auerbach of NBC Sports, Michigan had been alerted that Moore was dealing with mental health issues prior to his firing on the 10th. Auerbach also reported that Manuel fired Moore alone with no human resources representative or present. Well, considering what human resource departments are these days and how insufferable they've become, and the type of way that they are the easiest format for social justice busybodies to come on in and feel like they have the power of life and death over everybody. Yeah, I'm actually glad that no, that type of jackanape, that type of harridan was not brought in or accommodated at all. As of 3 p.m. Eastern, Thursday, okay, Michigan has not issued a statement on Moore's detainment or arrest. The Wolverines' only external communication regarding Moore came at 4:43 p.m., which was simply to announce his firing. That was the time of when they publicly announced his firing, but considering that the police came there and were detaining Moore at 4:10, for all we know, it was hours before that time he had already gone and been told that he was fired, and then flipped and started doing all this. Now we've got Michigan students surprised by Moore's firing. Michigan students interviewed by the Detroit Free Press said that they were surprised by Moore's firing following the perception of a culture around athletes perceived to flout rules and hide improper behavior. Well, maybe all those things that's, the Michigan graduates or students like that like to say, like if you remember the whole HBO documentary they did about the Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, all the people on there were going on and on about, you're a part of something bigger and better. And I believe also Dan Rather, he of the kettle voice from Family Guy, also was a former Michigan man, if I'm remembering right. And well, turns out maybe, just maybe, knowing Dan Rather also had a little bit of difficulty with the truth sometimes in his reporting and his career in journalism. Maybe this is something where what people actually that are there in the circle, in the loop as students or in the faculty, what they know and what they say, whether or not it is said publicly or out loud, may just show that certain reputations are not exactly earned, that certain times people will talk about the culture around an environment, some form or another. Actually, they are purely full of shit. I'm surprised the university didn't cover it up. Student Aiden Wolfson said, I feel mostly with these things, there's an administrative tendency to sweep it under the rug or maybe pay off somebody. But the fact that the university followed through with an investigation for once is actually a good thing. And considering University of Michigan's history of doing things like when what would have been a massive national scandal that wasn't, was when several old, like my father's age, U of M football players all came out of the woodwork to accuse Coach Bo Schembechler of protecting the team doctor who spent years sexually molesting players. And yet, despite one of the players actually getting to the point of protesting on the front lawn of the dean of U of M, there was little to no reporting about it except for a brief mention of a press conference that some of these former players held. And occasionally you would see the Chiron down there. You would have seen more coverage about the Cain Velasquez case over him trying to chase down and shoot the man who sexually abused his 4-year-old son than you would have seen about this abuse case. I wonder what it says about ESPN and their Disney control over their operations, that are the motivation behind why they would want to go and not exactly report on the molestation of underage boys or the sexual abuse of, even if it's, barely legal men or whatever. That type of abuse and that type of misconduct is still there. So why, in this case, well, yes, this no student, Mr. Aiden Wolfson, he may or may not know about that history there before when it comes to what that coach, that team doctor was doing to players. But hey, this time he's a random student. Yeah, that's a good thing. This investigation is ongoing and under review by the Washtenaw County prosecutor. The suspect remains in custody at the Washtenaw County Jail and is expected to appear in court for arraignment. On that date there, the Pittsfield Township Police Department remains committed to transparency while respecting the privacy rights of both victims and the accused. We thank both the media and the public for their patience and will continue to release details regarding this incident when permissible. That's what the Pittsfield Township Police Department said in an update. Moore is unlikely to be charged today. In a separate statement obtained by the Detroit Free Press, Washtenaw County Prosecutor Eli Savit, said that because the investigation is still ongoing, Moore is not expected to be arraigned today. Quote, the matter involving Mr. Moore remains under active investigation by law enforcement, and as a result, we do not expect charging decisions or an arraignment today. Mr. Moore remains in custody at the Washtenaw County Jail. And because of all this, because of what's going on with all these sort of details, because this is a developing story, it's a thing where following it day by day or day in and day out, or looking at the details of what is happening or what's not happening, that you have to go and really process that consistently or process that well, because then you don't want to end up like, what happened with the quartering, where there was the big announcement about how actually ABC is extending his contract inexplicably. They must really have it in for the American public who doesn't want to watch him anymore. And this was after the quartering went uploaded a video about how ABC getting rid of Jimmy Kimmel. It's becoming his equivalent to Doomcock being so obsessed with how sources say that their inside sources say that Kathleen Kennedy is about to be fired at Lucasfilm. That bitch will have her brain, her white wine pickled brain, put in a robot body to stay in charge of Lucasfilm before she'll get fired. All right, jackass? Forgive me if you, the man in a Halloween costume and a voice synthesizer, is somebody I do not trust for the news, okay? Just saying. And these with guys like I said, with Nerdrotic, with Geeks and Gamers and their, little, and all their friends and their own little substreams and all that. Them, what they do is they go and they look at what's being reported out there from actual people, as opposed to mostly just going there like with Doomcock, where he'll look at a headline from a Hollywood Reporter, but then keeps on saying sources close to me, which is just him repeating whatever shit he saw on Reddit that sounds like something that a Ryan Kennel type who would want to hear back in that day. But then again, I might as well, if I'm going to be like that, I might as well, go and do all the updates on Sherrone Moore like that if I'm going to go and do it like Doomcock, or just look at some Breitbart article and then yell into a webcam like Ryan Kennel does. You'd be able to take me much more seriously, doing it like this. And on that note, I want to thank you all for watching. Subscribe to the channel to reach 10,000 subs. Become a member today and shop at my art store with the second link below, where you can buy my art or commission me or support me directly with a donation. And besides that, do not forget to go and show support by pre-ordering my comic Encrypted. Issue 1 is now available for pre-order, and the pre-order is available until Christmas. You can get a regular copy for $5, a autographed copy for $10, or an autographed and sketched in copy for $20, or you can subscribe to the first full year of the comic for $60, or subscribe to the first year of the comic with each one autographed for $90. And I want to thank Alpha Proto for tonight, him pre-ordering a copy of issue 1 that is autographed and sketched in during our stream tonight. That one, oh, yes, that is good. That is fun. That is magic right there. So until then, felines, slam it, lick it, suck it, and see you, Space Cowboy.